Guys, it's paintball question time. Video series where you just, send your questions into me and I answer 'em. I'm just gonna totally wing it and let's, hope it works out. Daniel asked, how important is the rate of fire in pro tournament paintball? What's the advantage of a high rate of fire? I definitely think it's important that we don't go back to something loco like shooting 15 balls a second full auto. I definitely don't want to do that again. And back when everyone started playing tournament paintball, everybody was using pump guns. Well, for sure, at least semi. And, most people were probably shooting about 5 to 7 balls a second. And then it seemed like overnight electronic guns came and then everyone was shooting over 15 balls a second. People just wanted to shoot fast. It was new and exciting. So we even got players kind of like hacking their guns to make them shoot faster. And to eliminate that cheating software, that's when we introduced ramping. It started out at 15 balls a second, and then now we're at that 10.5. And for anyone who remembers playing back at 15 balls a second, it was kind of insane. I mean, paint wasn't as good and the guns weren't really as reliable or as consistent, so it was just harder to shoot people back then. Now I think the guns shoot so well and everybody's so good that if the pros went back to kind of 15 balls a second, nobody would move. I mean, you might move off the break, but as soon as the break ends, you have so much paint in the air and everyone's so good that it'd just be scary to move. You're just going to get shot as soon as you leave the bunker. And, I'd really like to see the mechanical guns in the pro division. I think it'd be really cool to see just them shoot slower. I don't think we really need these high rates of fire. I think at slower rates of fire, you might actually encourage more movement and more action. There's for sure a strategic advantage to having more paint in the air though, obviously, right? If you're shooting 5 balls a second or 15 balls a second, it's just gonna be a lot easier to kind of hold people in place and just shoot the edge of their bunker so they can't come out. But, that's not really the case. Whereas in the tournaments, everyone's shooting the same firing mode. You're playing the NXL, everyone's shooting 10.5 balls a second. So it's not an advantage or a disadvantage, but it's certainly a lot harder to move just when you've got more paint in the air. Asks, do you ever think the cost of paint will drop industry-wide? Probably not. I think that if it was going to drop dramatically anyway, I think we'd have probably already seen that. Paintballs have been about the same price for the last 20 years. I mean, you've been able to buy a box of $40 paint for about, 20 years. And it's only in the last few years that we've really seen any type of cost increase. Now it's about $45 to $50 for that same, $40-ish box. And then entry at most of these paintball fields have really been the same too, The place that I play most of the time for 9 years was the same price, and then only a few years ago raised the prices a whole $5 for entry. One of the things that's kind of keeping the cost down for me at least, and I know a lot of other people, is just a lot of people are playing mechanical now. I can play pretty much all day, get there at 9 o'clock and play till like 2 or 3, and only shoot a half a case or 3 bags of paint. But, I hear you, if you're, trying to play tournament paintball, it's kind of like required that you're able to shoot 2 or 3 a weekend. A lot of these sports that require equipment are going to be expensive. Golf or cycling or scuba diving, all that stuff's really expensive. So that's just kind of how it is. And then Chris asks, hey Brad, I recently played speedball for the first time and loved it. I'm thinking about looking for a 3-man tournament, so what steps should I take to find and prepare for a tournament? Well, most people in your position that are going to play a tournament have a team, so I don't know if you have a team yet. You definitely have to do that first. But that's a whole nother problem. There's not really a good setup way to join teams. There aren't like little league teams you can join or anything. You just have to meet people and kind of just join a team. I think the best way to do that really is just talking to the people at your local field, right? If they're splitting people up into advanced groups, then there's probably someone in there who'd like to play tournaments, right? Look for the guy who's going to the field every weekend and having lots of fun. It's odds are they'd want to, try to go play a tournament as well. Or talk to the field or local store, right? A lot of the local fields and paintball stores just talk to players a lot. So they're going to have inside information for teams that are maybe looking for players. Maybe they just know 2 guys who's looking for 1 guy. Sometimes teams are having tryouts. And then talking to your local store and field is a good way to find out about those tryouts. At your first tournament though, I just try to have fun. I wouldn't stress too much. Just go and experience the thing. Don't put too much pressure on yourself. You're not going to go win, but just try to go and see what it's like, have fun. Don't worry about like shooting as many people as you can and how we're going to do if we make it to the finals or anything like that. Just go have fun, experience your first tournament, because there's a lot going on, right? There's a lot to think about. So just go figure out how it all works and how it all flows. And then maybe for the next one, think about what you could work on and what you could do better. Just go have fun. I mean, literally, if you're not having fun, I don't know what we're doing. And then Fran asked, say I have an Etha 3 with its velocity set at 280, all right, with the tank outputting at 800. If I drop the pressure down to 400, will I have to increase the velocity? Yep, most likely. So you gotta think that the Etha 3 runs at about 130-ish PSI. So if you put that 800 PSI tank on there and then set the velocity at 280, it's just gonna be used to that 800 going in. So if you move down to that 400 PSI, it's not really used to that. It's used to that higher pressure. So the regulator and everything will drop in pressure a little bit. You'll probably see like, I would guess a velocity drop, probably like 20 feet per second. It's not gonna be dramatic, but you'll definitely have to change the velocity. That's good though, it's not necessarily a bad thing because it's a lot easier on the gun to go from that 400 to 130 rather than 800 to 130. You might see a little bit more consistent pressures and you never know, it might shoot a little bit better. But yeah, the velocity is changing. And then Ray asked, I have an Etha 3. What marker is a decent upgrade without spending over $1,000? Well, right now there's probably 3, right? You've got the Shocker Era that just came out right at $1,000. And there's also the DSR Plus right at $1,000. And then the higher end Planet Eclipse gun is going to be the 180R. Those are, $1,100 though, but it's close enough. And I think all 3 of those are probably pretty good options. I mean, I'm definitely going to probably tip toward the 180R. I think that the Planet Eclipse guns are just going to be more reliable. The velocities are more consistent. They're just ergonomically, I kind of like them a little bit better. And 83, 82, 80. I don't know, maybe the velocity's not more consistent, but they're definitely more reliable, and I just kind of like the Planet Eclipse guns more. I think that that's probably a common sentiment. And then I'd go DSR Plus. The DSR Plus shoots very well, though. It's extremely quiet. They barely kick at all, and it does feel good in your hands. Then there's that Shocker Era, also at $1,000, like the DSR Plus. And the Era, I don't know. I'm not like a huge fan of the Era. The Era is brand new. It just came out. To me, I don't really like the ergonomics. It's got like a few quirks that I'm not a huge fan of. So, I'd probably go with the DSR Plus or 180R. Watch for a Shocker Era review. There's going to be a Shocker Era review soon, too. So. And French asked, I love the channel. What's your experience in the paintball industry? Well, let's see. I started playing paintball probably in like 2001. I think it was 2001, the summer of 2001. It could have been like fall or, somewhere on there. I mean, it was 24 years ago. Yep, and then I think about a few years later, 2004, 2003, started working at Predator Paintball in Sacramento. And then worked there for a very long time, kind of on and off for about 10 years. There was a time when I didn't work a whole year, I think, and then kind of came back and started working again. Worked at Predator for that 10 years, and ended up purchasing the store in 2013, and then owned the store for 5 years, so I actually owned the paintball store, and then sold the store in 2018. And then during that Predator time too, I was doing other stuff too. So we actually were the US Warranty Center for Angel. So for a long time I was working on Angels and kind of like for Angel as a sales rep for a brief period of time. But I would say mainly it's working at paintball stores, right? Working at Predator, and then actually end up owning the store. And then I played a bunch of tournaments too. I played the PSP, I've played an NXL tournament, I've played the WCPPL, MPPL, all, lots of tournament stuff.